Movie opens with 2 minutes and 44 seconds of opening credits. In space! Which is not abnormal for a Trek movie. What is abnormal is setting that against this distractingly obvious CGI-rendered champagne bottle. Also, how does this even work? Does every starbase come equipped with its own built-in bottle launcher, or does somebody just have to take a stroll outside equipped with little more than an EV suit, a strong arm, and a decent understanding of how champagne bottles traverse a vacuum? Honestly, I don't know which option is more ridiculous.
How did the deal get back on the Enterprise bridge?
Journalists. Listen, I'll savor every last minute with Scotty and Chekhov, but we've already said our goodbyes to this crew, and the absence of McCoy, Spock, Uhura, and Sulu is distractingly apparent. If you want Picard to play with Kirk, fine, but leave everyone else in the undiscovered country on the bridge of the Enterprise where they belong. This is a huge fucking swarm of people in the command center of the most powerful ship in the fleet. Would they really be allowed to video all this sensitive shit and then broadcast it for the galaxy to see?
The Lokul is one of 2 ships transporting Alorian refugees to Earth.
Something that's always bothered me is that the Alarians were made refugees because their homeworld was destroyed by the Borg. But despite Starfleet very generously rehoming them, they won't give them any heads up about this insanely destructive threat until Picard forces it out of Guinan nearly 100 years later.
Signal the closest starship. We're in no condition to mount a rescue.
We're the only one in range, sir.
The Enterprise is the only ship in range cliche. Also, how is that possible? Right there. Do you see that? That's fucking Earth. How is there only one ship within 3 light years of Earth? Did they learn nothing after the whole thing with the whales and the Tube of Doom?
You left space dock without a track to me.
It won't be installed until Tuesday.
We will find out that the Enterprise also left without torpedoes or a fucking medical staff. I'm presuming he means this Tuesday, so what was the hurry to perform this lap around the solar system?
Captain Kirk, I would appreciate any suggestions you might have.
My God, Kirk waits for a literal verbal invitation before speaking up. Sure, he doesn't want to undermine Harriman on his own ship, but I don't think the 200 people that just died really give a shit about Starfleet professional courtesy.
Sir, I'm having trouble locking onto them.
Tuvok is not a Vulcan in this scene.
I got 47 out of 150.
Scotty has time to discuss his original Pokedex.
An antimatter discharge directly ahead might disrupt the field long enough for us to break away.
Throwing antimatter at a gravimetric distortion to see if it sticks. William Shatner overselling this turbulence because he didn't have any dialogue to butcher. Kirk had to climb down, pull out a grate, then open a thing that comes out and then goes back up through the grate. The designers of this starship must have had conversations about efficiency and landed on, fuck it, what's the most dangerous thing we can come up with?
I don't know how much longer I can hold it together.
Scotty, and all over the Scottin' place.
That's it. Let's go.
Let's break this down for a second. Scotty just invented an experimental, never-before-used theoretical particle beam, and somehow Kirk knows exactly how to program it into a brand new ship that he's totally unfamiliar with no instructions. And here I am unable to get my goddamn soundbar to connect to my goddamn TV.
We're breaking free.
I want to break free. I want to break free.
Was anyone in here? Aye.
But I'm not going to tell you who, and will instead let you ponder whose death you should be sad about. Also, this is a pretty badass way to kill off Captain Kirk, zapped by a huge proton beam while saving hundreds of lives. Super glad nobody will feel the need to shoehorn him into the climax of the movie only to kill him off again. We all know that would be a bridge too far. Oh boy, here we go! I love the Enterprise B, but I am pumped to finally see the Enterprise D on the big screen. Wait, why are we on the ocean? Oh, come on!
Bring out the prisoner!
These dinner cruise theatrics are how the crew of the Enterprise has chosen to conduct Worf's actual promotion ceremony.
Computer, remove the plank!
Movie wastes Worf by promoting him, making him the butt of a joke, and then just having him sit down for the following 90 minutes.
That's retract plank, not remove plank.
Whether it's retract or remove, you wouldn't do either with someone still standing on it. And yes, I get that Riker might have done this on purpose, but the scene is played so straight it's hard to tell if this is true or not.
You've got to get into the spirit of things.
Dr. Crusher thinks that an idiom is a sufficient way to explain the nuances of humor to an android.
Data. That was not funny.
No one bats an eye when Riker dumps Worf into the water, but everyone's giving Data shit as if he just amputated Beverly's leg for fun.
No engines, no computers, just the wind and the sea and the stars to guide you.
This yearning for a bygone era bullshit that pop culture continues to perpetuate despite the fact that everyone has always lived in some future person's past. So instead of romanticizing a life that by your standards was more simple but also had scurvy, maybe you could just embrace the present.
Bad food, brutal discipline, no women.
In case you'd forgotten, Riker is the horny one, pretending to be the captain of a boat in your free time away from your job as the captain of a space boat. This is the only version of the Enterprise that Deanna does not crash while at the helm. Why is Worf looking in this person's ear? Movie doesn't know how to check the vitals correctly.
Commander, better take a look at this.
You better come take a look at this cliche. Star Trek does this so much they should really receive royalties whenever other movies do it.
This emotion chip
may be the only answer.
It sounds eerily like a statement from the writer's room when they had to make a decision on which MacGuffin they would use to get the runtime of this TNG episode up to feature length. Rumor has it that the team responsible for the lighting for Game of Thrones Season 8 got their inspiration directly from this scene.
Emotion? I'll explain later.
Or Geordi could just tell her that they've installed an untested emotion chip that Data pulled from his evil twin brother's dead body after he was shot with a Borg ray gun. Is that really so hard? Also, Star Trek Generations proves that you can have a beloved character drink some weird alien milk without dividing a fan base.
We have analyzed the Romulans' tricorder.
Also, why the fuck are Geordi and Data fucking around in 10 Forward during an active investigation of a Romulan invasion? Why aren't they the ones investigating the tricorder? Were they like, well, Worf's been promoted, so fuck that guy, let him do all the work.
When you said to Commander Riker, the clown can stay, but the Ferengi in the gorilla suit has to go.
Huh? This is clearly a countdown timer of some sort, but Geordi takes one look at it and just thinks, nope, nothing suspicious here, and moves on.
I cannot help myself. I think something is wrong.
I'll admit this does make the scene more interesting, but experimenting with this emotion chip not only outside of a scientific setting, but also on an away mission is surprisingly negligent for these two characters, especially since the result seems to be something along the lines of Data getting blitzed at work.
Gentlemen, is there a problem? Dr. Soren.
Geordi doesn't think it's at all odd that Dr. Soren has been allowed to return to the station on his own. What is it with these Star Trek movies making characters that absolutely kicked ass on TV 50% dumber on the big screen? Unnecessary gadget pivoting. Skip!
Picard who fought at Trafalgar. The Picard who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. The Picards who settled the first Martian colonies.
The Picard who fucked a goat that one time. Okay, I made that up, but it seems a bit bullshit that all the other Picards are so fucking awesome. Just saying, the universe would have to balance it out one way or another.
A quantum implosion has occurred within the Amargosa star.
Damn it, people, can we stop trying to make things sound extra sciencey by adding the word quantum?
Sensor records show the observatory launched a solar probe into the sun a few moments ago.
And nobody was fucking alerted. Who was hiding that crucial nugget of plot development?
How long before the shockwave hits the observatory?
4 minutes, 40 seconds.
Number one.
Where the fuck are they going? If they've only got 4 minutes until the shockwave hits, why can't they just beam over from the bridge?
Hear that, Soren? We've got a level 12 shockwave coming in.
Oh no, not a level 12!
Sir, a Klingon bird of prey is decloaking off the port bow.
What?
Picard responds with, what? Instead of anything that would advise the crew on how to react to the situation, because there's nothing more reassuring than watching your commanding officer being visibly caught off guard.
Helm Warp 1, engage!
This individual is pressing a lot of buttons here. Couldn't some of them have been pressed ahead of time? I mean, we're cutting this pretty fucking close. This ship wasn't even facing the right fucking direction!
Done it, Soren.
Not knowing how to take a compliment.
I hope for your sake you are initiating a mating ritual.
This is exactly what I hope my college girlfriend would say when she found me eating ice cream naked on her balcony. She did not.
And now we have a weapon of unlimited power.
It is wild to me that if you pick a random Star Trek movie before 2009, there's a 40% chance you'll get one that contains a ship of pissed-off rogue Klingons chasing down the Enterprise, and a further 20% chance that they're also looking for a super dangerous weapon.
He lost his entire family when the Borg destroyed his planet.
Beverl Exposition. Holy shit, Guinan, that is a lot of fucking candles right here. No wonder we don't see her in any of the other movies. We'd probably burn her goddamn quarters down.
All you'll want is to stay in the Nexus. And you're not gonna want to come back.
Guinan forgets that Picard is at least part English and could therefore never be happy in a place where he'd have nothing to complain about.
Have you ever considered a prosthesis that would make you look a little more, how can I say, more normal?
The guy hanging out with Klingons thinks Geordi's visor is the weirdest thing he's seen today.
Normal is what everyone else is, and you are not.
Soren is trying to get back to the Nexus so he can be with his family after tragically losing them. Now, that's a pretty good motivation behind some of the abhorrent shit he's trying to do in this movie, but putting Geordi down has got nothing to do with anything, so it just ends up making him look extra mustache-twirly instead of even 1% sympathetic.
She believes he is fit for duty.
Not sure if this makes her a bad doctor or a bad engineer, but he's most certainly not fit for duty. Unnecessary desk pivoting.
It will take the computer a few moments to compile the information.
Just enough time to have an emotional heart to mechanical heart. Next time, though, I'd appreciate a more exact countdown so I know exactly how far I need to skip ahead. Also, I know this isn't entirely accurate, but Data using the Enterprise computer for calculations kind of feels like asking Alexa to make a phone call with a Nokia 3310. Stupid Android operating systems.
But I experienced something I did not expect. Fear.
Somehow, the android capable of 60 trillion operations per second didn't anticipate that an emotion chip would make him feel emotions. Data has this incredible IMAX-style multi-story monitor, but he keeps the results to his search on this tiny fucking window, and that's just poor desktop management.
The Bozeman, why would it make a course correction?
Apparently his ship came out of fucking nowhere, and some wise-ass decided to zap it with a tractor beam instead of decompressing the main shuttle bay.
Simply do not have the ability to control these emotions.
This scene works in terms of Picard being a mentor to Data, but it is also very irresponsible to not refer Data to Counselor Troi. Last I checked, helping people through tough situations like this was kind of her job.
Learning to live with them. No matter what the circumstances.
Cannot.
You will not be deactivated.
Tough love instead of, actually helping.
Why doesn't he just fly into it with a ship?
Our records show that every ship which has approached the ribbon has either been destroyed or severely damaged.
And here is where the bad guy's plan completely falls apart. Soren and Guinan were both pulled out of the Nexus after the refugee ships flew into it. So far, flying a ship into the ribbon is the only proven method of entry. The movie wants us to believe that Soren has spent the last 80 years coming up with this create multiple supernovas with an experimental compound plan instead of working on a stronger ship or better shields.
He can't get to the ribbon, so he's trying to make the ribbon come to him.
If the ribbon is destroying anything that gets near it, it would also destroy anything in its path, right?
What would happen to the ribbon's course if Soren destroyed the Viridian star itself?
Man, space is big, yo. Like, really fucking big. Think of the biggest thing you can think of, and space is, like, even bigger. So I feel like it's a goddamn miracle that Soren only had to destroy 2 stars before the ribbon came into contact with not just a planet, but a planet that can support humanoid life.
Did you get anything from the human?
No. His heart just wasn't in it.
This is 100% a Geordi is dead fake-out, and it's a pointless pile of horse shit that gets undone in less than 2 minutes. Regardless, any amount of time thinking Geordi LaForge is dead is an unacceptable amount of time. Someone at Starfleet acknowledged that the bridge needed grab rails in case of emergencies, but still didn't extend that logic to include fucking seatbelts.
We'll consider it a prisoner exchange.
I don't care what you want to consider it. Prisoner exchanges usually involve both sides having a prisoner with loyalties to the other side. This is just you being indecisive about what prisoner you wanted in the first place. Geordi hits the deck as soon as the transporter cycle finishes, and that's always made me want to see the Klingon side of this equation. Was there a bunch of Klingons that had to precariously prop up Geordi in a standing position while the transporter beam took hold?
Do be careful, Captain. That's a 50-gigawatt force field.
Captain Picard survives this. Seriously, if 1.21 gigawatts is all it takes to time travel, I can't imagine what 50 gigawatts would do to a person.
Human females are so repulsive.
Ah, the old Twilight Zone, we're ugly to them cliche.
I've spent 80 years looking for another way. Believe me, this is the only one.
I still refuse to believe that's the case. How is anyone else getting into the Nexus? There's my better shielding idea from earlier. What if you put on a spacesuit just beamed into the damn thing? There are 2 options for you, and it hasn't even been 80 minutes, let alone years.
The Nexus?
Time has no meaning there.
Soren goes to all this trouble searching for an experience he could easily find in... let me see. Who have we got this week? Here we go. Ohio. I've always wondered why Starfleet half-assed the new uniform rollout on their goddamn flagship. You'd think they'd be the ones to get it first. Just replicate 1,000 of those bad boys and get them dished out. Anyone would think they were on a time crunch and had to borrow their uniforms from a space station.
You tiny little life forms. You precious little life forms.
Okay, there's no way I'm getting through this without removing a sin for Brent Spiner and everything he gave us as data.
Where are you?
But how is he getting a tune out of this thing? Doesn't that mean the buttons he needs to press to scan for life forms just so happen to make this tune? Or was he punching a bunch of extra buttons to finish off this melody? I bet he just cut off someone's shower on deck 12 or fired a fucking torpedo or something.
Magnify the section and enhance.
Zoom and enhance cliche. I don't care if it's the 24th century, it's still bull.
Their shields are operating on a modulation of 257.4.
This fucking works. There is an absolute calamity of events that has to take place for this to happen. A, Soren somehow programs Geordi's visor to punch a signal through the Enterprise's shields in a completely undetectable way. B, no one thinks to check if Geordi's visor has been tampered with. If they do, that's also untraceable. And C, some wise ass has to somehow think it's a good idea to constantly display the Enterprise's f***ing shield frequency on a panel for all to see. Why isn't that shit hidden behind a pin code or something? My phone should not have better security than the f***ing Enterprise. The Enterprise takes some damage here, but not enough for my liking. Especially since later, the Klingon Klingon ship burst into flames like it was soaked with gasoline and stuffed full of explosives.
Plasma coils. Is there any way we could use that to our advantage?
I do not see how.
And yet we will immediately find a way to use this very specifically to our advantage.
Lock on the plasma coil.
No problem!
Data may be experiencing emotions for the first time, but that doesn't really explain why all his emotions are also weird.
Fire at will.
Seems oddly personal. Firing one torpedo when Riker clearly said,
Prepare a spread of photon torpedoes.
I'm not saying the music that's playing here is directly ripped out of a certain Bruce Willis film, but choices were definitely made, and now that die has been cast pretty hard. Ah, man, they dragged the poor Klingon bird of prey explosion from the undiscovered country into this mess. I feel comfortable counting this guy's smile as a premature celebration.
Yes!
Fine, you can have one too, Data.
Haven't you got anything better to do?
The casting director's response to Shatner asking to be in this movie somehow makes it into the script.
There's nothing I can do.
Aside from waiting for the perfect moment to stylishly roll under the door at the last second.
All right, let's move him out. Let's go.
Oh yeah, Gates McFadden is in this movie. Also, some nerd told me that when the Enterprise separates, it's the saucer section that carries all the civilians to safety, which makes me wonder why sickbay isn't already located there. Also, I know you can't transport everyone at once, but you'd think they'd prioritize the slowest movers like the wounded, right? And we know the transporters are still working because Star Trek movies love nothing more than advertising that shit as soon as they break down. Soren inexplicably waits until Picard pulls a survives this maneuver before choosing to shoot again. Here we see Worf fall ass over cranial ridges onto his neck and almost loses his baldric entirely. But within seconds, he's managed to stand up, fix his baldric, and immediately fall down again in an entirely different position. Continuity supervisors, man, how do they work? This movie has plenty wrong with it, but this entire sequence of the Enterprise saucer section crash landing is not among those problems. Thanks to CGI, we may never see physical effects like this ever again, and this old man yelling at a painted cloud on Viridian 3 misses it. Picard f***ing stands here and waits until Soren notices it before making his move.
Look at the tree. I helped decorate it. It took all day. Say Merry Christmas, Papa. See the presents?
Movie shows the exact opposite of what my version of the Nexus would be for quite some time.
Guinan, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm delivering exposition that the movie couldn't figure out how to do organically.
So if you leave, you can go anywhere, anytime.
All right, I know exactly where I want to go.
Awesome! So he can go back a few days, prevent the fire that killed his brother and nephew, and still have plenty of time to catch Soren at the observatory before he even has a chance to blow any stars up and destroy the Enterprise. No need to leave it to the last.
To the mountaintop on Viridian 3, just before Soren destroyed the star.
Dude, what the fuck?
James T. Kirk.
Okay, I'm willing to admit it would have been a crime to not find a way for these two legends to have an adventure together, but did it really have to be so contrived? How is a 70-year-old Kirk Picard's best option of stopping Soren? Is it just the two of them in the Nexus? Why did he even need to pull someone from the Nexus anyway?
Antonio, what are you talking about? The future?
This movie was originally a crisp 90 minutes, but Shatner's line delivery in this scene alone pushed it to a full 2 hours.
Something is missing.
My God, how long has that toast been in there, and why isn't it burnt yet? Also, 3 pieces of toast to 1 egg is a bad ratio, even for a large space egg.
This is not your bedroom.
Captain Picard would be excellent at cinema sims.
This is my uncle's barn in Idaho.
The pacing in this film might be its biggest sin of all. It's pretty non-stop from when the bird of prey attacks, to the dramatic evacuation of the Enterprise, to an incredibly tense crash landing sequence, but all of that momentum is brought to a grinding halt by Christmas at the Picard's Top Chef Starfleet edition and, well, Captain Kirk riding a horse.
Don't let them promote you. Don't let them transfer you. Don't let them do anything that takes you off the bridge of that ship.
So the prescription here is to hold on to this post till well after you are unable to perform your duties, so you have to be forcibly removed from command instead of gracefully passing on the reins. Just saying, it's kind of weird to hear this incredibly selfish portrayal of nobility coming from the two heroes we're supposed to be rooting for.
I take it the odds are against us and the situation is grim.
Yes, but only because the pair of you seem determined to not change any of the preset destinations on your Nexus GPS.
He's James T. Kirk. Don't you read history?
Seems pretty unnecessary for Picard to be waving Kirk's around.
I've got to get to the launcher.
The ribbon will be here in a minute.
I'm sorry, but I am not done with this point. Why cut it so close? Unless you know you're in a climactic finale, there is no reason to give yourself such a small window of time to stop a supernova that kills millions of people.
Actually, I am familiar with history, Captain. And if I'm not too much mistaken, you're dead.
Soren delivers this zinger instead of just fucking killing Kirk immediately, as if spending the rest of eternity with his family isn't at stake. Physics steps in and makes the bold move of ensuring the pad lands in a spot that is just accessible enough to be dangerous while still reachable, instead of falling directly into the canyon, never to be seen again, as all probability would suggest it should have done. Hey, and while we're at it, let's take a second to talk about the timing here. First time around, the rocket launched about a minute after Picard fights Soren on the bridge. This time around, 3 full minutes have passed and no rocket. I thought that was on a timer. Did it have a change of heart? Doesn't this mean that Soren is already Oh, fuck you, movie. Unless Go-Go Gadget boots are standard issue for Starfleet captains, there is no fucking way that Picard is suddenly able to reach Kirk here.
We're running out of time.
As far as you know, you ran out of time 3 minutes ago. Why is time not working properly anymore? Kirk was in a dire situation, barely hanging on to this collapsed walkway a moment ago, but now after discovering how much more captain he can be, he's able to do this. Guess I won't be needing this anymore. It's beyond lucky that Picard even understands what he's looking at on this console, let alone that he figures out the right order by which you should rub these nubbins to get this thing to work. Yes, I'm going to sin the movie for attempting to avoid a sin by putting this translation-enabled message here to explain why we can read the locking clamps message that should be in Ilarian or Klingon. Look, just be grateful I'm not sinning that Soren must be speaking English anyway, since Picard doesn't appear to have his comm badge and its built-in universal translator. Fortunately, the rocket containing a highly experimental compound capable of shutting down an entire fucking star didn't leak any radiation or wipe out the entire planet when Picard decided to blow it up willy-nilly.
It was fun.
Well, I'm glad somebody thinks so.
Oh my.
I don't really have an issue with the choice to kill off Kirk in this movie, or how they chose to do it. In fact, I don't feel much of anything about it, and I think that's the problem. His death is kind of meaningless. They clearly weren't making any more films with the original cast, so what's the point? Just let him enjoy his retirement, or kill him off in the undiscovered country. This doesn't even really feel like passing the torch, considering the Next Generation had already finished its run. This death is just kind of there. And regardless of what you might think of Shatner, Kirk deserved better. This is a touching scene, but wouldn't the responsible thing be to notify Kirk's family and let them decide where they would like him to be buried?
I believe I have learned to control my feelings. They will no longer control me.
I'm glad to see Deanna and Data are finally discussing his experience with emotions. I'm sure she will have some great insights that are beautiful and poignant.
Well, I hope you're successful, Data.
Never mind.
Is this it?
Whatever that is. What about the fish? What about the fish?
Someone once told me that time was a predator that stalked us all our lives.
Yeah, it was Soren, the guy who just tried to kill everyone. And he said it to you a couple days ago. I can't tell if Picard is joking or just being weird about this.
Somehow I doubt that this will be the last ship to carry the name Enterprise.
For sequel shadowing, I've always believed that this ship was actually some sort of clever contraption that picked up the saucer section of the Enterprise to carry it away for salvage, and damn it, pick a different ship design if you want me to think otherwise, movie.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Oh, really?
It's going to be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Why should I sail with any of you? 4 of you have tried to kill me in the past. 1 of you succeeded.
Something new from Focus 3?
What did you just say to me?
Some people call us a race of listeners. We listen.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
We have entered orbit of Viridian 3.
To be or not.
Autobots, roll out.
I'm on a horse.
Picard!
Tear down this wall. We're only mortal.
Speak for yourself, sir. I plan to live forever.